From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on your MTN statewide news on this Tuesday. I'm Andrea Lutz. New at noon, Montana health officials report 4 new COVID-19 related deaths as we continue to navigate the holidays and holiday gatherings. Those new deaths coming from Custer, Fallon, and Richland counties. The total number of cases in our state grew by 376 since just last night. Active cases are up by 20. In all, Montana has lost 978 of our residents to COVID-19 related illness. Montana's Governor-elect Greg Gianforte says tackling COVID-19 and the pandemic is his #1 priority. This week, he outlined those priorities for the first term of his position as the highest office. Gianforte hinted that many of Montana's current virus-related restrictions could be relaxed. He says he'll be wearing a mask and getting the vaccine when it's available, but with that, a caveat that Montanans should have the freedom to make their own decisions.
I think with freedom comes responsibility, and I trust Montanans to make the right decisions for themselves and the people around them. Again, we'll get through this together.
The governor-elect says he has a plan to help with the economic recovery, too, but it won't involve much in government spending. He's spoken with Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature, and he's telling us that there isn't much room for any new spending. Gianforte will be sworn in on January 4th. President-elect Joe Biden will look to boost the supply of the coronavirus vaccine after he takes office. A member of his advisory board says he'll likely invoke the Defense Production Act, that law essentially allowing the government to make companies produce certain items in an effort to protect national security. The Department of Health and Human Services says the Trump administration made this move more than a dozen times already. The new stimulus package appears to be already having a benefit for the airlines. Southwest says extra funding will prevent the company from having to furlough workers and make cuts. Southwest announcing it would be forced to make its first layoffs, though, in company's history, with 6,800 people affected. The airline industry receiving $16 billion in payroll support from the stimulus bill. It is a big day for Boeing. The 737 MAX will carry American passengers for the first time after being grounded following 2 deadly crashes. American Airlines will use the plane to fly between Miami and New York. Last month, the FAA approved changes and Boeing put in place to help fix those issues with the aircraft. Several airlines outside the U.S. already have resumed flights with the MAX. There may be more COVID vaccine doses out there than originally reported. The Food and Drug Administration says healthcare providers can squeeze up to 40% more doses from the existing supply. That guidance coming after some providers notice vials meant to hold 5 doses of the Pfizer vaccine containing enough for about 7. The FDA has given them the green light to administer those extra doses. And you may soon need to show proof of your coronavirus vaccination if you want to travel. A new app would allow users to upload medical data, but critics say there's a hurdle in maintaining personal privacy, of course. Weather officials are closely monitoring ice chunks gathering at the banks of the Jefferson River. The water rising and causing some concerns near Three Forks. Well, that's where the river right here is on the bank level. And because of that, ice could force the water onto the nearby land. A nearby fishing access site west of Three Forks has ice in part of its parking lot near the boat launch. All right, well, let's check in on more weather around the state of Montana with Miller Robson. He is filling in for Ed this afternoon. Hi, Miller.
First time sharing the stage with you. Now, do you prefer Andrea or Andrea?
Yeah, it's Andrea.
Andrea, okay.
You know, Andrea always sounds so fancy.
Well, that's when I come in on Fridays and I act like I'm British. All right. You know, it's interesting you mentioned the ice jam. I want to throw this out there. There's an aerial flood advisory in effect through noon tomorrow for southern Broadwater and northern Gallatin. Is it Gallatin? I'm still learning. Gallatin. All right, I'm still learning the counties there, folks, and that is through noon tomorrow, so it's something we'll definitely want to keep an eye on the banks of the Jefferson. Most of the area around the state, we are struggling to get even near freezing. Right now, Billings sitting at 36 along the High Line. We're in the 20s. Pretty clear out there. Now, we do have some clouds spitting out some snow flurries in Miles City and Glendive, and maybe in some of the higher elevations off to our west. In terms of wind, yeah, those winds are going to try to pick up, especially down near Livingston, where we can start to see gusts up to about 60 miles an hour tonight. And that's going to go all the way through Thursday. Tomorrow's going to be the day where you have to take it easy heading into work and school and on the way home too, because those gusts will hit peak sometime tomorrow afternoon. Something we'll keep an eye on. We'll have a complete look at your forecast coming up. Andrea.
That's right. Okay, and thanks for the heads up on Livingston winds. Always kind of a hard thing to navigate. Miller. Senator Steve Daines is under fire from members of his party for supporting the Montana Water Rights Protection Act. A group of Republican state senators say they'll challenge the law passed as a part of the federal spending bill. And they say the act is a clear betrayal of the state and the president and contains unnecessary spending. The act provides $2 billion to the Flathead tribes to update irrigation infrastructure. Daines' office says without this bill, thousands of Montanans would have been forced into expensive litigation. Montana breweries and distilleries are getting some help from the federal government. The Craft Beverage Modernization and Tax Reform Act was included in that recently signed relief bill. It reduces their tax rates permanently. Senators John Tester and Steve Daines supported adding it in the year-end spending bill. Without this extension, the state's breweries would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars more in taxes.
We're expecting a tough winter, so the timing of this relief is vital. We're really worried about the ability of these businesses to survive this winter, and so the tax break combined with the COVID relief, without it, I don't know if some of these breweries would make it, quite frankly.
And the Brewers Association also says the Paycheck Protection Program was also important for many of its members, and they are pleased to see more money for loans. A Kalispell man charged with killing his wife and a mother on Christmas Eve is now being held on $750,000 bond. 34-year-old Bradley Hilias was arrested on December 24th in the death of his wife, Amanda. He was arrested, and the Flathead County Sheriff's deputies say they responded to a home on Willow Glen Trail, found Bradley trying to revive his wife who was laying on the floor. Police say she died from blunt force injuries associated with the neck. He faces life in prison. An early morning fire in Great Falls has left a person dead as firefighters worked to put out the flames. A body was located inside the home. Well, firefighters responding to this home on the 5400 block of Lower River Road. When they arrived, it was fully engulfed and crews were able to get the fire out quickly. Neighbors say they called 911 after people were seen running around outside, alerting others.
We honestly thought there was a fight about to happen. So we started hollering at them. Then I look over at my neighbor's house and you just see a big old barrel of smoke coming out of the top of the house. And then you just see flames kind of coming from the windows. And then you just saw people running around breaking windows.
Authorities are still trying to determine the cause of that deadly fire. An investigation is underway at the popular Maclay Flat area west of Missoula after someone graffitied hate speech at the facility. Forest Service law enforcement were notified earlier this week of the vandalism, and those with the Lolo National Forest say Missoula's no place for this appalling behavior on public lands. However, those in Missoula and the community took swift action. They immediately sent staff in to erase that vandalism. We do have more ahead on today's Noon News, including this: a new route from Kalispell to Whitefish, getting folks the chance to move across the Flathead Valley in style. We'll show you the details and how you can catch a ride. But first, Miller, he's back in with a look at that statewide weather forecast.